to be able to just make a choice on your own and just be able to speak for yourself.
This One's Wife. Dad's 80th birthday ignored. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. The narcissist has two uses for birthdays when they're other people's birthdays. When you're in the golden period, you're treated to a brilliant birthday. The day is very much about you. You're flattered, complimented, looked after. It might be that you're taken somewhere special, bought fantastic presents, have a brilliant party. And the narcissist, eager to please you because you are seen painted white, pulls out all of the stops. Their generosity makes them look good in front of other people, facade management, and ultimately you, as the intimate partner, primary source, or non-intimate secondary source, family member or friend, have a special occasion because the narcissism drives the narcissist to treat you well. Not because they're inherently kind, not because they actually care about you, but because you're painted white, and therefore the narcissism responds to that by suggesting that you be treated in that fashion and treated well. Accordingly, in such circumstances, that means that this results in you getting an excellent birthday. However, as many of you will attest, that there are occasions when your birthday is ruined by the narcissist. This might be because you're completely ignored, or it might be as a consequence of the fact that the narcissist comes along and does something which spoils the day for you. If you'd like to learn more about why the narcissist ruins birthdays, I'd invite you to watch my video of that name. You can search for it on my channel by going to H.G. Tudor, Why the Narcissist Ruins Birthdays, and you can be educated further as to what's behind that. In this instance, we're looking at This One's Wife in order to explain another facet of her narcissism, whereby she's missed her father's birthday. As Catherine Mayer Fennell reports in The Express, This One's Wife has not spoken to her father Thomas since 2018 and is not expected to reach out to him despite it being his 80th birthday. The Duchess of Sussex once had a close relationship with her father. He was painted white, despite him separating from her mother Doria Ragland when she was very young. However, things started to fall apart after news of her engagement to Prince Harry became public, as it emerged not long before their May 2018 wedding that Thomas Markle had staged paparazzi photos, threat to control. It was alleged that he had arranged for the photos to be taken in order to improve his public image, facade management, but the idea backfired as it instead deeply embarrassed Kensington Palace. The palace had insisted that Mr. Markle was a private individual with no interest in working with the media, but that was not the only thing that kept him from attending the Sussex wedding. He also suffered 2 heart attacks not long before the ceremony, making him unable to travel to the United Kingdom and walk her down the aisle. Instead, This One's Wife walked part of the way by herself, and for the rest of it was escorted by her father-in-law, King Charles. This One's Wife's half-sister, Samantha Grant, who is also estranged from the Duchess, took responsibility for the paparazzi debacle on social media, as she wrote, "The bad press over my father doing stage photos is my fault. The media was unfairly making him look bad, so I suggested he do positive photos for his benefit and the benefit of the royal family. We had no idea he would be taken advantage of. It was not for money." This One's Wife has not spoken to her father since the fallout before her wedding, with Thomas Markle never having met his youngest grandchildren, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. He told Mail Online ahead of his birthday, "I've had a good life and I'm proud of what I've accomplished, but everything has been overshadowed by what has happened in the last 6 years. I've never been one for birthdays, but I know the one person I most want to hear from, This One's Wife, won't be in touch." In posts from her now-defunct blog, The Tig, assertion of control through social media, This One's Wife gave an insight into how much she once treasured her bond with her father. On one post for Father's Day, she wrote about special memories she shared with him. "Our club sandwich and fruit smoothie tradition post my tap and ballet classes, which, by the way, he religiously took me to on Saturday mornings after working 75-plus hours a week as a lighting director. He also took extra care with one of her Christmas presents to ensure it was reflected of his daughter and her life, as this one's wife recalled. On Christmas morning, swathed in glitter-flecked wrapping paper, there I found my heart family. A black mom doll, a white dad doll, and a child in each colour. My dad had taken the sets apart and customised my family. I picture him standing there in Toys R Us, Mum's glaring at him for taking the toys apart, perhaps an employee saying, "Excuse me, sir, you can't do that," as my dad carefully separated the box sets to make one that echoed my reality, one that showed me that I should and could make my own box. This one's wife, of course, at the time spoke favourably about her father. She did so by triangulating her audience with her father, who was painted white, to make it look like she adored him. This would elicit sympathy and appreciation from whoever was reading her blog, thus demonstrating they were under control and providing her with fuel. She has later disengaged from him. The reason stated, of course, is that it was him going to the paparazzi. However, the fact is, although that threatened her need for control, that would not be sufficient for a narcissist to disengage from him. And in fact, that has just been used as an excuse. The reason that she has disengaged from him is because he simply became an unreliable appliance that was of no use to her. Hitherto, he had been useful because he looked after her. He paid for things. He got her access to auditions. But then once she married Harry, there was no need to involve her father any longer. Although he would provide fuel, she didn't need him for fuel. His character traits had essentially become redundant. His residual benefits had faded. Accordingly, she didn't need him for those things. She had found more important people that she could leech off. Remember, she doesn't love her father. She has no sense of obligation for maintaining a relationship with him because they are family. The narcissist has no such sense of obligation. Her father was an appliance, non-intimate secondary source to be used by her and her narcissism, to be utilised for the purposes of control, fuel, character traits, and residual benefits. Ultimately, because of the risk that he might speak out about her, because he would know where some of the bodies are buried, that would mean that he would prove too difficult to control. But the main reason why she no longer bothered with him was simply he became obsolete. He was of no real use to her anymore. And because she doesn't actually love him and has no sense of obligation towards him, it's a case that she simply casts him to one side. She feels no guilt, no remorse for doing so, for she doesn't experience those things. Instead, her narcissism deemed it was appropriate to disengage from him and suggest that it was because he had been organising paparazzi photographs. Most people would say, well, you might disinvite him from the wedding, you might express your disapproval, but that wouldn't be sufficient to have nothing more to do with him. It isn't the real reason. The real reason is because he doesn't serve a purpose to her, and therefore she has ditched him. This means that year on year, his birthday is ignored and forgotten about. He probably rarely comes up on her radar. She will hardly ever think about him, because the narcissism will not cause her to feel bad or keep remembering him. He will only pop up on the radar intermittently as a consequence of perhaps a memory or somebody mentioning him. And in the circumstances, she will just jettison him, deeming that he's surplus to requirements. Her narcissism will have revised history to suggest that he was an awful father. It may even go so far as to create false accusations of abuse, something that many suspect is what she said to Harry, which has caused him not to want to meet his father-in-law. The fact is, Thomas Markle Sr. is no longer required by this one's wife, therefore she doesn't bother with him. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.